Today on the Robert's Full English Breakfast Show, I am more than thrilled to have one of the great dames of the British theatre. And what sort of message would you have to give to Andrew? Because I know you do most of it by email.
Yes, well, between you and me, I try and keep him as far away as possible from the theatre. No, he's a bit of a drunk, to be quite honest. Yes, and he gets very aggressive. If you cut a line, he's rampaged through the theatre, tearing up seats.
Well, there, Andrew Pollard, is what Dame Widow O'Twanky thinks of you. Well, Andrew, thank you very much indeed for coming along too. What message do you have for Dame Widow O'Twanky?
Well, I mean, she's a lovely lady, really. We move in very different circles, of course. Hers is a very big circle, mine's a very small one. But we get on, you know. We have our ups and downs a little bit, but we get on, you know.
How many pantomimes have you been involved in at the Greenwich Theatre now?
This is the 7th this year. I wrote the first one, I wasn't in the first one, and then I've been in them since, so I've done 6 now. This is the 6th, yeah.
Which of the great pantomime dames have been an influence on the writing of Dame O'Twanky or any of the other dames?
Yeah, it's funny because TV was my big thing, I suppose. I didn't go to live theatre very much when I was a kid, but I used to like watching old films. So all the music hall turns, that was my love. But Les Dawson, actually, I saw, and I was backstage when he did Panto in Manchester. My friend was in it, and watching him was, and of course, because his line is down through Rob Wilton and people like that, you know what I mean? So I learnt a lot from watching him.
When did pantomime start?
Well, I mean, over here it's been around for a very long time in different forms. I mean, it was the Commedia dell'arte which kind of started and came over here. But the panto that we know now is pretty much a music hall. That kind of, those kind of jokes and the audience participation, those kind of front cloth things, it's pretty much kind of Victorian music hall as well.
And who was the first sort of famous dame?
Well, Dan Leno is the one that everybody knows, and he originated certain roles, like Mother Goose was written for him. It's not a fairy tale. The story of Mother Goose in pantomime was completely created for him. So he's the one that it kind of all goes back to, really. And
going back to Aladdin, which is currently on at the theatre in Greenwich, where did the name Widow Twanky come from?
Well, that came, again, from Victorian times. I mean, the Victorians had this kind of great love of everything Oriental, and it was the clipper ships that came over from China, and there was a kind of tea called Twankay tea, and so it was quite famous, it was quite a cheap tea. So she became Widow Twankay, which meant she was kind of slightly cheap. And
well, that ties in very well with Greenwich, because as we all know, the Cutty Sark had a rather sort of unfortunate happening a few years ago, and it's sort of being reopened.
Yes,
and of course that was a tea clipper ship,
exactly,
and that would tie in with about 1869 when that was built. So the 1860s was sort of when I suppose all the Oriental tea clippers were.
Yeah, exactly. And of course the original Aladdin story is Arabian. It's not, the China thing was a panto thing that was added onto it because of this love of Oriental stuff.
Where did Widow Twanky's career as a laundry?
Yet again, we're back to Victorian times. Because of the trade, lots of Chinese moved to London. Limehouse became the area
up the road.
Yeah, where all the Chinese laundries were. Hence, Widow Twanky became a laundress. So that was, again, it's all Victorian.
And wasn't there somebody said, though, she's a mangled old thing after the laundry mangled?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was Dan Leno. I think they said, yeah, she was a woman of mangled form or something like that. Yeah. Again, it's Dan Leno. He originated a lot of that, or it was written for him. You know.
Going back to other dames of past, they were very strict, and I know Arthur Askey had great opinions on how dames should be. Yeah. I mean, what was his opinion?
Well, he was very much. I mean, I think he rarely wore makeup. It was just he was Arthur Askey in a wig and his skirts, and he always kind of said that, you know, the dame should still have his trousers on underneath, that you knew it was a man, and I go with that to a point. I mean, I think, you know, there are very kind of the shades of dame, but I think it's good to know that for people to know you are a bloke. I don't like female impersonators playing dames.
I think that's what he said.
If you're a dame, you've got certain kind of feminine traits, or the outward appearance with the boobs and the dress. but there's a robustness about a dame. And you're a clown, essentially, I think. That's how I play it. I think, although you've got women's clothes on, you are a clown. Whereas I think in female impersonators, it's the illusion that you want people to think you're a woman.
Not prepared with just writing the script for Aladdin, and for the last, 6 years, or 7 years, 7 years at Greenwich, you've written how many other scripts for other theatres up and down the country?
Well, I've got 4 shows on this year. I've got this pantomime at Watford Palace, which is great to kind of write for there, because that's got a great tradition of panto. I've got another panto up in Richmond in North Yorkshire at the Georgian Theatre Royal, which is the most gorgeous little theatre, the oldest working Georgian theatre in Britain, and it's got all the old traps. It's just like a little jewel, and that's really lovely to work for that because of the history, of theatre there, and we kind of play on that a little bit. So it's not old-fashioned, but it's far more kind of theatrical, I suppose, in terms of its look. And then I've got a Christmas show at the Stephen Joseph. I've done a version of the Nutcracker story, which isn't a panto, but it's a family show. So yeah, it's turned into a little cottage industry. Really.
So yeah. It's probably rather nice having a rest, just doing how many shows a day?
2 a day, 6 days a week.
6 days a week.
Yeah.
You're on your knees.
Yeah, it's not a
well,
rest.
There's a rather marvellous Phantom online blogger
yes.
who's a great fan of yours.
I know, I've read the Phantom.
And the Phantom, I asked whether the Phantom had a message for you. The message the Phantom did give is, don't you dare leave Greenwich.
Oh, well, that's very nice. I've got no plans yet to leave Greenwich. I mean, it's always nice. We're now part of people's Christmases here, and I find that quite an honour, and I take it very seriously. It's a lovely thing to be part of. And once a theatre likes you and an area likes you, I think it's part of my life. So yeah, I'm going to be here for a wee while. I think.
Well, Andrew Pollard, thank you so much for giving a bit of your very precious time out. And there you are, Phantom. I think we've got Andrew for a little bit longer. Andrew Pollard, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
On Robert's Full English Breakfast Show.